welcome everyone to our LifeWave Connect Business webinar for the month of February. My name is Garrett Johnson. I am the U.S. Country Manager. It's my privilege and my honor to be with you today to be able to talk about some amazing topics. I love the fact that we have an opportunity once a month to talk about some skills and some things that we can use to help grow a business. You know, David always has probably the most popular webinar we do, and that's okay because it's David, and we certainly get it when we talk about the product. But this is really an opportunity for us to talk business, to talk about what it takes to be able to really build a strong business and, you know, be able to have the kind of impact at the end of the day on the people that we care about the most, so that they can find the full benefit of what we have here at LifeWave. And so it's my privilege to be able to go through this with you. And I also have an amazing guest that's going to be with me today that's going to go through the amazing topic about how we help and retain and keep those our customers and our brand partners in. And so give me just a moment. I'm going to share my screen here. So that way, as we go through that, you can get kind of a feel for what we're going through. So I want to, first of all, introduce Connie Lucas, one of our newest SPDs. And the thing that I love most about what Connie has done here is she's done this while also running, both her and her husband have their own businesses outside of LifeWave. And so she's been able to build her business and get to the level of senior presidential director while doing it part-time. I think that's pretty amazing, knowing that that's possible and it can be done. You can reach the highest rank in the company doing it part-time, but there is got to be a certain level of commitment to it, and she certainly has exuded that. And so she's been with LifeWave and really building for maybe a little over 2 years. And so when we're taking a look at what she's been able to do in a short period of time while doing it part-time, while continually running her own separate business in conjunction with it, is nothing short of amazing. I also want to give her a big congratulations to her as well as one of our Aruba trip qualifiers. And the thing I love about that also is that sometimes, and I'm not saying it's specific to anything at LifeWave, but I've been in this industry for 26 years. But when someone reaches some of these top ranks, they start to kind of drop off doing the things that they know is necessary to build a strong business. And so, but she obviously, in order to qualify for the Aruba trip, she still is very active, supporting her team and driving her team and doing the important income generating activities every single day. And so it's going to be an absolute pleasure for all of you to be able to hear from her and everything. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce her and bring her on. Connie, are you there?
Here I am.
Hello. Fantastic. Well, we are so excited that you're here, and you're going to be able to take the time with us to be able to share with us. Now, you're coming from Arizona, is that correct?
That's correct. That's correct. And thank you so much for the opportunity to share. You know, our individual teams get a chance to hear from the leaders, but it's really nice to get an overview that everybody can see what's going on and what other people are training on. So thank you.
Yeah, I love it. And I agree with that. I think the more we have an opportunity to see what others are talking about and sharing, especially if they're not in the same team, this just gives us an opportunity as a community to be able to learn and see what's working within other teams. And so I think that's always incredibly valuable.
You know, you mentioned that we do this part-time. So my husband and I do have, as many of you know, 2 traditional businesses. And I think it really is important because the vast majority of people that come into network marketing as an industry come in part-time. This is how they start, right? And for many, they'll always maintain that part-time. And so it's important to know that you can do it, but it's also important that we realize that I did it with a full-time mindset. I worked on my business every single day. Right. So that's what a lot of it took was you can do it part-time, but every day you're working on something with your business to move it along.
And I think that's the key, right? That really is the consistency, doing something every single day, staying connected every day makes all the difference in being able to, it really probably is the difference between someone who can get senior presidential director doing it part-time and those probably who won't be able to because if they don't stay consistent.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And what we're going to talk about today is kind of meeting people where they're at, because so many times people come into this and they're looking for that superstar. And heck yeah, we're all looking for the superstar, right? But along the way, you're going to meet all these different people. And if you can meet them where they're at, you can get them in, keep them in, which is the retention piece, and then move them along at the pace where they're at. You can build a really sustainable business. And so that retention piece is huge because, many people are really good enrollers. They're just enrolling. But if they can't keep them in, it's frustrating. They can't get to the next level. They're coming in the front door, they're going out the back door, and everybody's getting frustrated. So a lot of what we're going to talk about today is how to keep them in and how to move them along.
I love that. It reminds me of when I was in a job interview, and this is with a previous network marketing company. I'm not going to say who it is, just for the purposes of I don't want to disparage any one company, but it was interesting as I got talking with them. One of the things they talked with me and asked me the question, what in your mind, what is one of the most valuable things, in building a network marketing business? And I talked about the importance of retention and creating a great experience that someone's just never going to want to leave. And they kind of looked at me and they kind of head sideways, kind of like, really? And then I was like, and they said, well, what about recruiting? And my point, my thought was, well, of course, that's important. We want to bring people in, but if you can't keep them in, there's no point in bringing them in because they're not going to stay. And I don't think I may not have got the job because of that, because they wanted, I think, more of a focus on the recruiting. And of course, we want to bring people in because we know what these products and this technology will do for people. But if we don't have a way to keep them, and they just go around the back door, then it defeats the kind of the purpose of what we're doing, right? I mean, when we're talking about network marketing and building a network of like-minded people, that's what it's all about, right? So.
Yeah, right. Everybody, that the piece of keeping them in is we work really hard to recruit. I mean, people are out there and they're really working hard to enroll, to create curiosity, to get people to take a look. And if, again, you can't maintain and keep your distributors if their people are going out as fast as they're coming in. So it's about you keeping your distributors and your leaders as well as, them all doing the same thing. So let's go to that first slide and kind of talk about the keys to that.
Perfect. So I love that.
Yep. 3 keys to getting them in, keeping them in, and moving them along. And we're going to talk today about connection and community. We're going to talk about setting reasonable expectations. I think this is huge for retention. And then we're going to talk about education and some of the tools and the things your teams may already be doing to help that piece of retention, education, and moving them along to where they want to be.
Well, I think these 3 keys are so important. And I was, as we were kind of preparing for this, I came across a quote that I really like, and that was, it takes us months to bring a new customer in. And we can also say maybe a brand partner in, right? Depending on what where they want to come in at, which is what we're talking about today. But it can only take seconds to lose them, if we don't do it the right way. So I think that's why these 3 steps become so important, as it teaches us how to make sure we're not making those, second, some mistakes, that can really have a negative impact on our teams.
Absolutely. And, it's really this first part, this connection and community is probably the biggest piece, because this is going to flow through to the other topics today. You're going to see, I always keep coming back to kind of the same thing, and it's building on it. How you bring them in, what you learn about them as you bring them in is also what you're going to be using to help support them so that you keep them in and you move them along. So, we want to talk about the idea that make it about them, what interests them. So many times we're so excited about our own story, our own experience, because as you and I have talked about, being a product of the product is a huge piece, right? That's your story. And so you're so excited about your story. You're out there and you're telling everybody about your story, which is great. Got to do that. But what you're not doing maybe is you're not figuring out what's important to them. So I'm sharing with somebody and I'm super excited and I'm telling them all about this amazing result I've had, with my knee being better or my sleep being better, or whatever it is. And I've got this great product. You got to get this great product. But maybe that person is in a situation where health isn't their number one priority at this point because they're trying to keep food on the table. They're trying to make sure their mortgage is paid. They're trying to take care of some financial things. And right now for them, that's their priority. So if you're not listening to them, then you don't know what to offer and talk to them about. So that listening piece is key, whether you're whatever, it's what did they want? And I just want to share as where you're learning from everybody. You're learning on your three-way calls when you come in. You're listening to the verbiage and the questions that are being asked by your mentor or upline that's on a three-way call. Copy it and duplicate it because everything about this business is simplicity and duplication. And I know I learned the hard way in a former company. I always have done a lot of education and training, and I love to talk. And so I became the expert, and I was the expert at all things. And I had a lot of people that were glorified customers, and I did very well, but I never could get to the top. And I couldn't create and duplicate myself because I was always the expert. So I had to learn how to listen and duplicate and keep it really, really simple. And it wasn't about me, it was about the team and the tools. So you learn from your brand partners too. And I have an amazing brand partners that I've learned so much from. And one of them, Anne Moreau, is so good at asking questions. So I started listening to the questions she asked. And I started paying attention to it. And so let's say she would be sharing a story of somebody she met and just recruited. And she would say, I noticed this about them. And what she did is she didn't go up to him and say, oh my gosh, I've got something that's going to fix you. That wasn't her first response. Her first response was to say, hey, I noticed this, what's going on? And then she would listen. And then once they did that, she'd say, well, what have you tried? And she let them tell them all the different things that they've tried, right? They're going through, I've tried this, I've tried this, I tried that. Wow, how did that work out? And then she'd listen to what worked and most of the time didn't work because they still had the issue, right? Now she knows all the things they've tried, all the things they've done. She's seeking to really make them feel valued and heard. And it isn't till the point that she really understands what's going on that she then asks what I think is one of the most important questions, which is, are you open to alternatives? Because let's face it, if they're not open to alternatives, I don't know why you're still going down this path, right? You can just say, hey, if that ever changes, let me know, but to go down that path when they're not open to an alternative defeats the whole purpose. And I hear all the time people talking about the idea, they'll get on and they'll say, oh, my sister really needs this. My best friend really needs this. They're going on and on and on. It's all about what they think, what they perceive, what they want for this person. And I said, as long as you're talking about you, you're not understanding. You have to create curiosity. You have to seek to find out what's important to them. Then we can find out if they're open, and move forward from there. So those are a few of the really important questions. And when you're on a three-way call with your upline, and as uplines, as you're doing three-way calls, it's really interesting because people will tell the person you're on a three-way call or Zoom with more than they're ever going to tell the person who brought them there, right? And so I always had something, and I've said this from stage a couple times. My question is about a magic wand. And so I'm on this call and this person's telling me, oh, they're so healthy and everything's great and whatever. And I just said, hey, if I had a magic wand, and anything were possible, be it in your health, be it in your lifestyle, be it in flexibility, freedom, wealth, what would it be? And it's interesting. You have to get quiet sometimes for quite a few minutes because they're thinking about it now, right? And I remember one gentleman in particular came back and he said, well, I was in a car accident 6 months ago. And I still have excruciating back pain. And he started just going on and really opening up to the idea. And now I have something to work with. Now I can set reasonable expectation. I can share stories of other people who have been down his same path. But the interesting thing was the call afterwards with the person who put them on with me. And she said, I had no idea. And that happens all the time. And so you get kind of said to me that you always like the phrase, the questions are the answer.
Yeah, so this is actually, it goes back to a gentleman I met probably, oh gosh, it's probably been 20 years ago now, named Alan Pease. And he's written a number of books. He's an Australian guy. He's really big into, reading body language and that. But one of the books that he wrote, and something that he actually came and I heard him speak at a conference that we were in, where he talks about how important that if you really want to understand or you want to get success with in building a network marketing business, the answer to all your success really is in the questions. The questions are the answer to everything that you're looking for. And so, one of the things he mentions, because, he's at the time he was probably in his, maybe mid to late 50s, but he was completely gray. And he said, someone might come up to me and ask me and just assume that I'm interested in retirement because I've got the gray hair. And he says, but the reality is, if you mentioned retirement to me, he says, I would run the other direction because the last thing I'm interested in is retirement, because in his mind, at least from some of the statistics he's seen, that retirement oftentimes means death in 2 years. And so for him, that's like, no, I'm never going to retire, and so it is interesting. Sometimes we can we can see something, we assume, oh, this might be their issue, when in reality, you have to ask the questions. It's the only way you'll ever actually know. You can't, you don't want to get stuck assuming into what other people are trying.
Absolutely.
Really need,
And you can always expand on any question by saying, tell me more. Mm-hmm. People love to talk. They love to talk about themselves. And most importantly, they want to be heard. And so just even expanding on any question when you don't know what else to say is tell me more. They'll certainly tell you more. And if you want to flip to the next slide, there's a few other ones that we've picked up. Now, one of my brand partners, Valerie Mitchell, she's another one. She is great at asking questions. And she always has said, and I picked this up from her, what if you could change the trajectory of aging?
I like that.
What a powerful question, right? Because now people start to think, oh, is that possible? What is possible? And I worked with a business coach, Terry Warner, and this about a year or so ago. And she was the one that came up with, she told me about Tell You More. And she said, if anything were possible, what one thing would you choose to experience differently with your health for you or someone you loved and cared for? Once they answer that question, the follow-up piece is, what difference would that make in your life? Again, people have to connect to it. They have to connect with their heart to what's important to them, and everything. Then they're open and they're willing, and they'll change and they'll do things they might not have done otherwise once they see that and they really connect to that piece.
I love that. And I hope everyone that's listening is kind of caught the beauty of these questions here. And certainly, hopefully, maybe screenshot it or quickly, take a picture of whatever, write it down. Because these are great questions, but sometimes it's the follow-up questions, that as you mentioned, are just as important as the original question. And what difference would that make in your life? Because that's when it starts to really, you start drilling down into, what it is that they really need. So I love that. So hopefully everyone's had a chance to take a look at get these questions down. And if not, you'll be able to, we will, this is actually streaming live on Facebook. You can actually go to our Business Builders page and find this there as well. Perfect. All right.
So one of the things that we're talking about is what are all those questions doing? Well, they're building trust. Okay. People are being heard, and that's how you build trust. And I love the book. We put this on here, The Speed of Trust, years and years ago by Stephen M. Covey Jr. And it just stuck with me that the speed of business moves by the speed of trust. When you see someone come in and build very quickly, it's because they already have built trusting relationships before. I can remember many of my people that came in, and many of my clients, they came in because they trusted me. I had already had that relationship with me. I had people that I went to and said, let me, you got to hear what happened to my husband. And I'd share the story and I'd say, do you want to send him information? They're like, nope, put me in. And that was built on years of trust. So that's what it's about. And the piece of really listening. I want to share a story about one of my brand partners who didn't start as a brand partner. And I think this is pretty common. So she's a fitness instructor, Pilates, fitness. She's an engineer by education, brilliant. She's very fit, very healthy, plays pickleball, has a large circle of influence. Like, this is the type of person that you're like, I want them on my team, right? And they can do this business and succeed. And she had a knee issue, and it was taking her out of doing the things she wanted to do. And she had tried PRP, she had tried stem cell, like nothing was working. And she was telling me about this and how, things weren't working. And I shared some stories and I told her about this, and I went ahead and patched her. And she said, I don't want to build a business. And I said, but, you don't have to. You can, I could have gone down the road of, well, you don't have to. You can just be a wholesale customer as a brand partner. She was very clear with me. She goes, I want to be a customer. I don't want to build this. And I said, okay, no worries. That's what we'll do. And so we put her in, and she wasn't really consistent. And I had to kind of stick with her. I'm like, you have got to be consistent. She was doing the EM patch and X39. And I said, just those two patches, be consistent every day. And finally, I was up hiking in Colorado with my husband, and I got the next picture and text message. And right then, this came over my phone, and she sent me this picture where she was at the top of Huron Peak, 14,000 foot peak. And she said to me, thanks to LifeWave, I was able to climb another 14,000 foot peak. It has been 4 years since I climbed one because of my knee. So that, of course, is what every distributor and brand partner wants to hear. I mean, you're so excited when you get that text message, right? So from there, what happened was she didn't join as a brand partner. She started referring people to me. And all of a sudden came the list of customer referrals from her, right? And then lo and behold, I don't even know how long it was, 6 months later, even more, she said, I'm noticing people are starting to notice on the pickleball court. They asked me what my patch is. I have 10 women who'd like to talk with you. Would you be happy? Would you want to talk to them? I said, absolutely. So we got together, and I met with these 10 women and shared some information. And when they all left, she looked at me and she said, I think it's time for me to be a brand partner. And she started enrolling. But I did it as she wanted to do it. If I had pushed her, we may never have gotten to that point. I really heard her, and I walked her down the steps to the time when she was ready. Because I could have put her in before, but she wouldn't have done anything. It wasn't what she wanted at the time. And, at the time she was giving me referrals, who do you think was doing all the work? It wasn't her, it was me. I might as well take them as my customers, right? Until she was ready, and then she could make them hers. So that's really what that's about.
I love that, meeting where they're at and helping them, with what they want rather than what we want. Because certainly we want everyone to start as a brand partner. We want everyone to go SPD in the first month. We know that's never going to happen, right? And so, but helping them, meeting them where they're at, and then when they do come on, it's their idea, and now they're committed. They're much more committed to it than if you were trying to, I guess, influence them in a strong way to try to do it. Right. So,
and the time that it takes to try to talk somebody in and drag them along, when you can go on to the next one and meet them where they're at while you're still out recruiting and building and helping and supporting until they are ready. And when they're ready, then it's easy to get them going because they're engaged at that point.
Yeah. And there's one of my, for the life of me, because I wasn't actually planning on sharing this, but there's a saying, and I can't remember who said it, but but I'm sure everyone's heard it at least one time in their life, and that is save the relationship. And I think that's always the key to success in anything is, whatever it's going to take to keep that strong relationship there, that's what we're going to go with, rather than trying to do what we want. It's about the other person. So yep. I love that.
It's called relationship marketing for a reason, right?
It is. Yeah, I love that.
So what do we have next? Okay, so this is the other piece of the connection in the community. We all know that stories and before and after photos and stories are, the pin kind of what turns our entire business. It's what keeps it going. And so many teams across the globe are using these type of things. So whatever your team is doing, if they're doing testimonial webinars, get on them and invite people onto them because they have to hear the stories outside of you, and they have to hear more stories than just yours, right? I know a lot of teams do great work with before and after photos. Picture tells 1,000 words. So Facebook groups, team webinars, you want to make sure that you're getting and inviting. You're on there. So every time you hear a story, it'll make you think of someone to call or connect with. You'll get people onto hearing something outside of you, which is critical for duplication. And then, you can go to also live events, venues. When you do a corporate event, when you bring someone to a home event, to a venue event, whatever that live event is, whatever that Zoom is, you're not just enrolling people, which is our number one goal, get them in, but you're re-enrolling them. You're getting them to the ones that are already in to get excited and engaged again. And you're taking them to a whole nother level. And the other piece is fun and laughter. When I came into this industry, we do have other businesses. And so I said, I'm not going to do this unless I can do it with joy and ease. Because if it can't be fun and we can't have a good time, then really I've kind of got to what's the point. And what I noticed is by doing that, by really coming with it with joy, by having fun, by bringing people into my business that I loved and cared about, wanted to work with, we have a great time. My husband cracks up because he knew I was not happy in my last company. I was pretty miserable a lot. And he said, when I get off of a call, a Zoom, anything, and I come out, he goes, you are always laughing. And I'm like, I just love my people. They're just a blast. We have fun. So the whole idea is if you can give value, you're never going to be selling a thing, so that's the piece. And the next piece, when you go to the next part, is something I always have said, and it truly is how I operate. My intention, and I tell someone this, my intention is not to sell you a sleeve of patches. My intention is that you get your desired result. And as a team, we are here to support you to you getting what your desired outcome or goals are. And so if you kind of come that way at it, it does organically grow.
I love that statement too, because it just sets the tone for what it is that everything we've been talking about, but now you're saying it to them, saying, hey, we really just want you to get the results you're looking for. And so, if you allow us to work, that's what we'll do, rather than I'm not here to sell you. So I love that you're setting that kind of expectation, but also that mindset of, who you are. And you can't help but endear you to the person that's listening to it. Right. Because now they know that it's about them and not about you. So
yeah. And if I'm on a three-way call, I know my team comes from the same place. They're just people who generally love helping people. And many of them are, current or former practitioners and teachers and healthcare workers. And, they coaches and they love to help people. It's what they're about. And so I've even on three-way calls said the same thing, so-and-so is not trying to sell you a patch. We truly want you to get your results. And we have the Zooms, we have the community to support you in getting there.
Love that.
So what do we have next? Oh, this is great. Setting reasonable expectations. So you can the numbers work. And we have no doubt if you're doing 333, if you're doing 331, if you're doing whatever your method of operation for your team is, the numbers work. There's no doubt about it. But if you can set reasonable expectations, you're going to get better retention. And then those numbers are going to be even better. And so when I'm speaking with someone, I will always share stories of varying timeframes and long-term benefits. So, for example, many times I will share my story because I share my husband's story. It's what made me look at the product. It was immediate. It was quick. And then I'll share sometimes my story and say, that wasn't the case for me. First 24 hours, I got better sleep. Within a couple of weeks, I noticed that, my workouts I was recovering quicker and I wasn't so sore after a hard workout. But it wasn't until 2 months when I had an old meniscus injury started really hurting. And I called up Dr. Nicholas and I said, hey, why is this hurting? And he said, because it's healing. When stem cells heal, they slough off dead cells. That creates inflammation, and you're feeling it while it's healing, and it's called retracing. And so I set that in their minds to know that, hey, we don't know what your body's going to do. First and foremost, you're unique and individual, and your stem cells, like little RoboVacs, go and clean up whatever it is that they think needs to be fixed. So if your underlying issues you have cardiovascular issues, you have GI tract issues, which is your immune system. We know from our double-blind studies, this is some of the first places that X39 is going to go to work. But if not, and you don't have those issues, maybe it's going to get to the fine lines and wrinkles quicker. Maybe it's going to get to reductions of scars or to, a certain injury. And you don't get to pick what injury it is. I have to share a couple stories with that. So one of my clients had come in when I was first introduced to the product, and I just was patching everybody because I was trying to see, does this crazy thing really work? And so I used the LifeWave pain patches. I knew he had a lot of pain, a lot of injuries, and he was in his like right around 70, I think. And I said, hey, is anything hurting? And he's like, oh, my shoulder, my elbow, whatever. And I said, oh, well, let me try these patches. And so I patched him with the LifeWave, got immediate results. He said, I would have bet $1 million those crazy little things wouldn't have worked. And I put an X39 on the back of his neck and I said, this is the long game. This is the thing that's going to help your body heal up all these old injuries. And so if, I go, just wear this, and tomorrow, here's a health tracker. And tomorrow I'm going to call you. I want to know if you felt anything. Now, I already knew he felt the patch work because I'd patched him for pain. Otherwise I might've said, you may not feel anything, but I want to hear what's happening. And so he got on the product and I set a very reasonable time frame for him. Well, lo and behold, about 3 months in, he calls me up and he goes, Connie, I think we got to talk about this because my feet are killing me. Like the patch isn't working. My feet are killing me. And I said, well, you know what, Rich? I said, how's your shoulder? And he goes, it's fine. It's great. My shoulder's doing great. Yep. No problem. I said, how's your elbow? Yep. Elbow's good too. I said, how's your knees? Knees are fine. How's your back? Back's great. But my feet, I cannot get my feet to get out of pain. And I said, okay, you're 70 years old. It's taken you a long time for this much wear and tear. I said, can you give me a minute? It'll get to your feet eventually. So we're setting really reasonable expectation. And I don't hesitate to set a 90-day to 6-month expectation based on what they're telling me and based on what's going on with them. And I have a few clients, a few people I've come across that they are so wrecked physically. And I tell them, look, you're talking about $1,200 for a year worth of this product. I said, give this product a year or don't even bother. Because I just think if I can set those expectations and I can keep them on 90 days, particularly 6 months, or a year, they're never leaving. They're never going anywhere. They may upgrade to brand partner. They may stay as just a wholesale customer, but they're always going to stay with me because I've set those reasonable expectations. And we always go back to, of course, that X39 is the patch to rule them all. It's your starting place. It's it's where you start everything and all possibilities come from. And the rest of the patches are, in addition, unless they're in pain, get them out of pain if they're in pain.
Yeah, I love that.
Mm-hmm. And tie the health tracker, tying their results to the patch. So here's another thing some of you may have had to have seen is they don't realize it's the patch that's giving them their results. So the beautiful thing about the health tracker, and you can find that on your app and send it to them, is even one of the neurologists on my team, he has every single person do the health tracker. because what it does is it reminds them where they started. And it shows them even the simple, subtle things that are happening. And so I had a client of mine who I have been talking to him about this since the beginning. And he's a retired fire chief, and he had no interest in ever listening to me. And one day he walks in and he's limping pretty good. And I said, "Hey, Dave, what's going on? You got a little hitch in your giddy up there." And he's like, yeah, it's my hip and whatever. I'm like, really? I'm like, well, what are you doing? You thinking surgery? Like, I mean, I know his mindset. And he's like, no, I'm not he goes, I'm not going to do surgery. No way. But, this is arthritis and nothing can help it. And, he was just going on and on about it. And I said, you know what? I said, would you humor me? And he's like, what? And I go, just humor me. Let me stick a couple patches on you. And I stuck the Eon patch right on his hip where it was hurting. And I put the X39 on the back of his neck. And I said, let's just see what happens. He called me back 2 hours later. He says, how do I get these? So we got him enrolled. Once we got him enrolled, he comes back later on and he starts telling me, in the continuing months after, as we're chatting about it, he's like, yeah, he's been on 3 months. He goes, I've been on 3 months and I really don't think it's doing anything. So I think next month I'm going to cancel my auto ship and I'm going to go off the patches. And I said, okay. I said, well, tell me why you think that. And he goes, well, I've been swimming and it seems to really be helping. And I've been doing physical therapy and I'm pretty sure, it's working great. Physical therapy is working great. I said, well, were you doing these things before? Oh yeah, well, I couldn't do them before. I go, that's really interesting to me. I said, you do understand that the reason that these other things are working is because of the patch. I had to literally tie it back. And then I ended with, if you want to cancel, no problem at all. And I said, Barry and I care about you. And what we make off of you buying that patch each month will not make or break our business, but we do care about you. So I'd like you to give it some thought. He's never gone off the patch. So sometimes just tying the results they're having. My clients have gotten in my hair business, if they stay on it for 6 months, 9 months, a year, they're going to end up with so much more growth and thickness in their hair. I've seen it on every one of my clients who's had an issue with that for whatever reason the issue is. But you have to tie back the result to the patch, or they don't know that that's why things are happening.
Yeah, I think that's so important to, is because that's with anything in life. Sometimes we're so close to the issues in our lives, we don't notice that the small, subtle changes, but someone who maybe hasn't seen us in a while will pick up on it very quickly. And so being able to track it back saying, oh my gosh, you were limping before, now you're not, what about that? And like, oh, you're right. It's so easy for them to forget. So, I mean,
I wish I would have known the results we were going to get. My husband had a massive horrible scar since he was 18 down his arm. I mean, so obvious that he said when men shook his hand, they were like, whoa, what'd you do? He's got a metal plate in that arm. And it is a barely visible, teeny little line now. If I had known, I would have taken pictures. So now I do tell all my brand partners and customers, I'm like, take pictures of your face. Just for you. Take pictures of any scars, take pictures of old injuries and things, because you're going to be able to have fabulous before and after pictures. So I think it's a huge benefit to do that.
Yeah, I love that. And I think the more we can help them see the results that like you say, it's setting the expectations, but now also helping them see that, hey, we set the expectation that there'd be results and you're not seeing them, even though they're there,
Right. One of my Canadian customers came back and all through COVID, I didn't see her, because she was in Canada, and she came back and I was like, oh, you look so different. Her hair was thicker, her wrinkles, like I could not believe the difference in her skin. And I said, you have got to go back and pull up old pictures. This is like spectacular, but it was because I hadn't seen her in 3 years that, or 2 years or whatever it was that through COVID, that I was like, wow, that's amazing. Absolutely amazing. So three-way calls and Zooms, they're the same thing for setting reasonable expectation. Your upline can help set those reasonable expectations if you're bringing people to the team. So that would be the only piece with that. And then we could go on to number 3.
All right. Education.
So there's so many different ways to keep people educated, but just like David's webinars, I mean, have you ever noticed if you can get someone to watch one of David's webinars or to come to a convention or an event where he's speaking, they are never leaving. Because they now understand why they're doing this, whether they feel it or not. They are understanding what is possible and why they're doing this. So education is a huge piece, and you're going to use a lot of those some questions we talked about. When you find out, like we talked in the beginning, when you're enrolling them and you're finding out what's important to them, you also know what is a valuable piece of information to send to them. And you always want to drip relevant information to them on them, right? And you can, you want to make it about what is interesting to them, what their current challenge is, anything like that. Make sure that education piece is to them. And so different ways of doing it. My upline, Robin Mascari, asked a question that I've repeated 1,000,000 times, and I got it from her. And she said, when she asked somebody if she can send them a video from the app or send them information, she always asks, do you like a little information, a lot of information, or somewhere in between? Because everybody has a different appetite for information. I like a lot. I mean, I want everything you can give me. A practitioner is going to want a lot, but there are many, many people that don't want more than a 30-second bit of information. Send them the one-page PDF on the X39, X49 from your app. Send them that one-page PDF because they'll look at a one-page PDF, but they won't watch a 10-minute video. Or an hour webinar. So find out what their appetite for information is. And then you can always ask them, would you be open to me sending you more relevant information right from the get-go? And even if someone has said no to you in the beginning, or what I consider to be not now, if someone says, I'm not interested, not now, then you could always say, would you be open to me sending you more relevant information in the future? And if they say yes, the door is still open. You're still dripping on them. Many teams have Facebook groups. Put them in your Facebook groups where you share stories and before and after pictures. You're dripping education and relevant information on them, and connect them into the YouTube channels, right? The company's YouTube channels, the Facebook groups, everything. What we're doing when we're connecting them in and educating them is 2 things. We're validating the efficacy of the product, or the fact that the business works, and we're upselling them to possibly going from a customer to a brand partner, upselling them to a particular product that might enhance even further their results beyond X39. So all of that education is always about keeping them in and moving them along. It's a huge, important piece. And then using your InTouch app, you can send more videos from the InTouch app. But I like to use it a lot for reminders, because the reminders, I would get lost if I had to keep track of everybody I talked to. So I go ahead, and in my InTouch app, you can go under prospects, go into the person and set a new reminder, even if you haven't sent them a video at that point. Maybe someone says, I'm really busy, it's the holidays, or I'm going on vacation. Can you get back to me in a month? Great. Go into your app, set a timer and a reminder out for the month, forget about that person, go on with the recruiting and the educating and the training and everything else you do. And then when that reminder pops up, to get back to that person and you haven't forgot about them. You can set reminders when they do come in for when their product arrives. So to follow up, hey, I know you got your product, you know how to use it, here's what's going on. Maybe after the first week of use, you set another reminder. You call them up and you say, hey, how are things going? Because if there's a problem, you want to address it then. If they're having a little bit of detox, they're not feeling great. you know what, this is perfectly normal. Maybe you're just going to need to drink more water, whatever the case might be for that person. Or maybe, before their first auto ship, maybe they want to add something else in. Maybe they've got some questions. I had a distributor one time years ago in another company who said, I don't want to call any of my people ever because I'm afraid they'll cancel their auto ship. And all I thought to myself was, they will cancel their auto ship eventually if you never call them.
For sure.
It's your job to keep them on this conveyor belt, and again, move them, get them in, keep them in, and move them along without them falling off. And if they fall off, still keep that relationship that you talked about. And I can't tell you how many of my people have gone off. I just honor it. I say, no worries. You know where I'm at. If anything changes, let me know. And most of them come back at some point and say, I think I need to get back on the patches.
I love that. And I think, that whole idea of setting that reminder and kind of, like you say, you can actually set it and forget about it, knowing that this is when I'll get back to them. What an amazing thing. And we teach this I've been teaching this in network marketing for a very long time, and that the fortune is in the follow-up. But I actually like how Gregory Mascari adds to that. The fortune and the friendships are in the follow-up, and so that's how you really let people know how much you care. And that's how you build those relationships, is by the continual follow-up and making sure that we're helping them, where they're at. And again, those reminders are key. So I love how you shared that, because I think that is actually super important.
100%. So I think that's all of it. Did we get to the last slide?
That is it.
Yeah, we did it. We did it. And I'm welcome to, if you've got time, and if there's any questions, happy to go over.
Yeah, so if anybody has any questions, you can go into your Q&A section at the, on the screen where you can, and actually ask a question. Let's see, it looks like we might have a couple. Okay, Connie, this one's for you. It says, and you can share as much as you're willing to on this one, but it says, Connie, do you have any Zoom or webinars that we can have an invite to?
Well, generally, here's what's happened to me that's been actually really, really great, is that I was very fortunate to, my sponsor brought me in and he turned me over to his sponsor, which is Robin and Gregory Mascari, and they are fabulous with team and tools. And so they do have a large organization. Many people might find that they're already on Robin and Gregory's team, but I didn't try to reinvent the wheel. I did just key into everything that they have. So if that's somebody in their upline, they might want to connect with them.
Okay. And I love that too. And you're certainly right. The Mascaris have many, many ways in which, they stay connected with their team. And obviously if you're in their team, which many people are, it's certainly, you should have access to those things.
And I'll lay money too, that if they go to, maybe you're down in depth from somebody, but if you get with corporate and you find who your upline presidential is or whoever, you're going to probably find that your team has things going on, because so many of the teams have really, really brilliant Zooms to connect into.
Absolutely. There really are a lot of good things that you can use. Okay. It says, what are the apps you mentioned, the tracker and the InTouch app? So I'll let you answer maybe that first one. Well, actually, I'll let you answer what you want there, and then I can maybe add to it as well.
So the tracker sheet is a sheet that you find on the app. So the app is the InTouch app. And when you, it's a free app that LifeWave has to all of its brand partners. And so you just can download LifeWave InTouch from to your phone or your mobile device, and you put in your username and password from your back office. And right in there is some really wonderful tools. So it has training on the app, right in the app itself. And it also has trainings of getting started. So you can go right into the menu bar and go to some corporate trainings for the newest brand partner to get started. And what I really like about these trainings that corporate did is they really have they're very quick. So somebody could just watch a quick 2-minute, video, and then they have an action step. So everything it's about your why, or it's about making your list, or some of the things that many people that have have been in the industry a long time know, but new people don't. And then it gives you an action step of what to do. So tons of information in the LifeWave In Touch app.
Well, that's perfect. I don't really need to add too much to that. You handled that one very well. The next question is one that I think is more patch related. But do people have allergies to the patches? And I've had a few people have slight, might get slight irritations. I haven't heard much more than that. Connie, in your experience,
it's the adhesive. It's some people, if they're very, 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 the adhesive doesn't bother most, but for some it does. But remember, this is phototherapy. It doesn't have to be on your skin. It's not a transdermal patch. It is a non-transdermal. And so you could put it simply on your clothing if you wanted to put it on your clothing, and it'll still be effective.
Yeah, and I know in many of David's videos, he shows actually people patching over the top of their clothing. So yep. That's perfect. Let's maybe do a few more. Let's see. So one of them, and this is again a patch question, but I just from my own experience, I would be curious to get your opinion on this. And again, just so everyone knows, in some of these questions, while we're talking about more business topics, these are kind of more patch topics. We don't diagnose, treat, or cure anything. We're just here to kind of share what our experiences have been, and hope that you can have some great experiences as well. But the question was Silent Night. Someone used it, didn't get the results, which then caused them to not use X39, and they dropped off. Well, I had kind of an interesting experience. So I would only be with the company for, it must have been, it was only a week, because I was at convention. And I think I was climbing in bed because, as you know, when we have these conventions, there's stuff going on all the time. And I think I was probably climbing into bed about 2 a.m. And I knew I had to be up by 6 so that I could, get up and help. I put the Silent Night, and again, everyone has a different place that they put things. And I had seen everyone wearing patches kind of on their chest, area. And so kind of like your decollage, whatever you want to call it. Anyway, I put it right here, and the Silent Night, and I was energized. It was the weirdest thing. I had so much energy. I'm going, okay, opposite of what I was going for. And then I remember hearing someone say that they also will wear patches on their forehead. And so I switched it thinking, okay, that's not working. I put it on my forehead, and literally within, probably not even 5 minutes, I was out,
I was going to say, you didn't read the instructions when you put it here, apparently, because that's not one of the recommended placements. But here's the thing. There are a couple of things. One, first of all, most important thing, David has a webinar on sleep. So go into the corporate YouTube channel, get the webinar on sleep that David did, and send that to someone, because it's going to explain. And I learned this piece from my upline as well. Different people lack of sleep is for different reasons, right? Not everybody's the same. And Silent Night is helping the body make melatonin. If lack of melatonin is not the reason you're not sleeping, let's say you're not sleeping because it's busy mind, or maybe you're not sleeping because you're stressed, or maybe you're not sleeping because you're in pain. You have to figure out what the reason is you're not sleeping. So there's many patches that can help with sleep. Alavita can help with deep, deep sleep. The Silent Night, I personally, I love the Alavita and the Silent Night. They're my go-tos for nighttime. But the Silent Night didn't work for me at first. It took time. And then I listened to David's webinar, and I added in taurine. And so, because my problem was busy mind. Go to David's webinars, and you're going to see a lot of information that's going to help you understand that we have 5 patches that can address pain, and we have many patches that could address sleep based on what your reason for not sleeping is.
Perfect. I love that.
The other thing is the piece of, they started with Silent Night, and one of the top things that X39 does for most people is better sleep. It was the first thing I noticed in my first 24 hours. It shows up in our double-blind studies and our results as one of the top benefits of the product. And so to start, if someone comes to me and says, oh, I want that Silent Night, I'll say, no, you know what? X39 is probably going to do that and a whole lot more. So we're starting with X39. So if you keep that X39 focus, then later you can add in Silent Nights if you want to.
Yeah, I love that. And you're 100% right. When everything we're hearing, and the thing that people usually find the most, their first with X39 is that better sleep. But I know I certainly did as well. So one other question here, and we'll probably have to wrap it up after this. What is the value of the health tracker?
The value is tying their results to the product, to the technology. So when they start off by giving, they're going through rating themselves 1 to 10 on different areas that we know are things that the patch helps with. Very simple things: better sleep, more energy, less pain, better focus, memory, a lot of the different things that we know are benefits of X39. And so they give themselves their starting point, right? And then from there, they're going to look at 24 hours, because we know from the studies that many people have results within the first 24 hours. Then they're going to look at 7 days. Then they're going to look at 1 month. Then they're going to look at 2 months. You're setting them up with a 90-day experience of tracking these different things, because let's face it, people remember what is in front of them. So if they're in pain, they notice pain. But when the pain's gone, they just forget about it. We're wired not to pay attention to things that aren't painful. So they don't notice all the good things. And the health tracker is tying, where they were to where they went and showing them this is what's happened.
Love that. One other question we have here, and that is, where do you find this video? So right now we're streaming this live on our LifeWave Business Builders Facebook page. So if you are just if you aren't a member of that group, you want to make sure you get invited into it, or you can actually request to join as well, and you'll ask a few questions, and then one of our admins will admit you into that group. It will also be going up on our YouTube page, but it usually takes us about a week from the time the video happens to get it all edited up and then put up to the YouTube page. So you can find it there in about a week, but immediately you can go to our Facebook page. So Connie, we're kind of right at the top of the hour. I just want to finish by just saying thank you. Amazing information. I think everyone has learned so much about the importance of really meeting people where they're at and helping them along the path of success here at LifeWave. In all my years of, being in this industry and working with different leaders, I don't think anyone's explained it so smoothly and so succinctly in a way that I think anybody, no matter what team they're on or what system they're being taught, can use that information and really, have the kind of impact that we hope we're having on everyone that we're introducing to LifeWave.
Thank you. Thank you so much for letting me share.
All right. Well, thank you. And thanks everyone for being on. We'll be also doing a replay of this evening at 6 p.m. Pacific time. So you can use the same link as we had for this one. And we'll look forward to catching all of you very soon. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.